My favorite thing about working from home and for myself is that I could wear a t-shirt with like holes in it.
I know, right?
No one could tell me no.
And we are live also right now.
With my holy t-shirt, everyone can see.
It's cool. I love. You know what? There's something comfortable about holes in a t-shirt or a hoodie. I have a t-shirt. I have a hoodie that actually has holes, and I actually buy things with holes. Like Valentina, I don't know if you remember, I had this horrible yellow hoodie that was ripped everywhere,
and I was the exact one.
I know, because I was wearing it in meetings. And Valentina was like, "Oh, it's like it's cool, you know, it's what it is." So, guys, we started the podcast, as you can see. This is Juliana. I'm here with Valentin, and we have a special guest in the building right now. And this is Katelyn Glass. She is the founder and managing partner of 56 Advising. So, Katelyn, thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
Of course, I am doing well. Waiting for the weekend. Almost there.
But doing something to make it a great weekend, right?
I can't. I'm actually flying to LA, and I apologize for anyone who's in LA. I actually hate LA, but I am going next week for a wedding and pseudo. When you work for yourself, you're never really on vacation, but kind of a vacation. So we'll see.
Cool. So, John, I apologize because I know you're in LA or somewhere in California. So I apologize for that. Cool. So, Katelyn, tell us, what is 56 Advising? What do you do in e-commerce? And actually, how did you get into e-commerce?
Yeah, I started in e-commerce, pretty much my entire career. When I went to university, we didn't have digital marketing and website building and whatever it is you crazy kids have. We had, I went to school for marketing. I graduated with the intention of working in the fashion retail space, and that's what I've done for the past 15 years. The bulk of my experience is at a company called Gilt Group, where I led the men's buying division for quite some time. And since then, I've done some really interesting projects. I led the digital transformation for a brand called Moscot, which is an optical brand based in New York City, but actually distributes all around the world. And I can't wait to talk about that. And then I went to Rowing Blazers as the COO and was there for about a year and a half. And honestly, I started 56 this year with the intention of consulting for brands who wanted me as a COO, but couldn't necessarily afford me full time, right? So I work for a bunch of different brands in a fractional capacity, whether it's helping with website and digital transformation or marketing strategy, or things as specific as email building and setting email strategies. I sort of run the gamut for everything that I do in the e-com and digital space. I position 56 as an e-commerce and digital marketing agency. I do kind of everything.
So, Katelyn, this space is not that crowded, and I think a lot of companies have a great vision. However, the execution sucks, to be, let's say, gentle. But how come you've got into this space, and why 56, by the way?
Yeah. I got into this space because I genuinely love it. I love doing something different every day. And I always joke to my fiance how I am not going to be able to take the standard 3 months maternity leave when I get pregnant one day, God willing, because by the time I come back, the entire space is going to change and there's going to be new partners and players and things move really, really fast in this industry. And that is why I've always loved it. That's why I've always sort of geared my career trajectory down the e-com path. 56. Well, I didn't really, the way it came about is a very roundabout way. I'm actually going back to school in the fall for my MBA, and I wanted to work for myself this year. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well start a company. So I sat here and kind of was looking around. I have like my bookcase in front of me and looking around at different book titles and trying to get some inspiration, just brain dumping. And very uncreatively, my address is 56 Mott Street in Chinatown, New York, and 56 just kind of stuck. So 56 advising it was. I want to, now that I have it, I'm kind of thinking there should be some cooler story, and I wish there was. But really, it's my address.
But don't go to her house or whoever.
Don't go to my house. It's quite all right. I live on like the busiest block in Chinatown, so.
And this weekend she's gonna be in LA, so you.
Oh yeah, I just gave out my address, and I'm not even gonna be here. Don't rob me, people. There's nothing to take. You can take my plans, but that's about it. Nothing else about me here.
So, I mean, I hope no one is coming to your house, but I wanna know why a COO. So for me, being a COO is the most unsexiest thing in the world. Valentin is laughing because he knows how much. So I'm like Steve Jobs, right? I use this is the second time I'm using this today. But like I know procedures are important. I know I'm learning this for the last period. I feel like this is the lesson that I have to learn this year with the procedures. But God damn it, I hate operations. So how you're doing like basically a very unsexy part, but also it's a most important part of a business, because it's not only the marketing that grows a business, it's also practically the business itself, and you know, the way the business is structured to make money, and the procedure, the processes, and so on. So how did you go from finishing, you know, graduating a marketing as a marketer to going and doing operation? I think you call this like marketing ops, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. If you would have asked me 3 years ago if I ever wanted to be a COO, I would have probably laughed in your face. Some of it was the circumstance of the business and what the business needed. Mm-hmm. I say this about myself in a very self-deprecating sense, but when it comes to creativity and good ideas, I don't have any.
You're great. I love it.
I am really, really good at taking that founder's idea and making it come to life and executing it. But as for having the idea, I mean, think about Rowing Blazers, right? Rowing Blazers started because Jack, who's fucking amazing. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, if I'm allowed to curse. Jack came up, Jack was a rower all his life. He literally wrote the book Rowing Blazers and started a brand around rowing culture that transformed into a lifestyle brand. Just that idea, I would never be able to come up with. Where he needed my support was helping bring that to life, whether it be marketing, whether it be operations and setting up a warehouse and setting up shipping and returns policies and all the little pieces that make a business move. That's where he brought me in to really help manage the team, help get things from A and B and cross the finish line. That is what I excel at. Mm-hmm. I am not the business idea person.
You're the perfect fit for this.
That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, very, very unsexy role. My ripped t-shirt.
I want to ask you something right now on live, not live television, but I want to ask you something. So how committed are you to your company? Because Valentin right now needs you, wants to hire you. I swear to God, like, listen, you are perfect.
You know, this is what I've been telling people. I'll never say never. I always knew I'd be good at owning my own business. Quite frankly, I didn't realize I'd be this good. And I thought this was going to be something. I'm going back for my MBA in the fall, and I thought this was going to be something just to carry me through my MBA, and then I'd go and work for some big company, Fortune 500 thing. But I actually love what I'm doing, and I don't think I will ever go back to working for someone. I like being in charge. I like being my own boss. I didn't realize how important the freedom was of having that until this year. So I don't know if I'll ever work for, with all due respect, Valentin, I don't know if I'll ever work for a man again. But I love what I do. I love what I do. But you never know. Who knows? I had someone ask me about joining full-time, and that turned into a board opportunity. So we'll see.
It's
So,
funny.
so here's how to get rejected live without actually asking for someone's help.
Sorry, Valentin. I'm sorry.
Signed by Juliana Jackson, the one and only. Anyways,
It's not as bad as that time when we were having a summit. We were having a live summit. There were 4,000 people watching, and I was hosting the session, and Valentin was talking. So at the end of the session, I was reading the questions that were coming from the audiences. And then at the end of it, I said, Valentin, this is my last question. It's the most important one. Am I going to get a raise? Everyone was
I like that.
Everyone was like, and I remember people were texting me like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I was like, I'm a busy person. I'm a busy person, and I need the answer. So I don't think it was as bad as that time. I got the raise though, for everyone.
Hey, down.
Cool. So I wanna ask you something. Like, let's go back to e-commerce. So there's a lot of ways that sustainability is defined in e-commerce, and based on what you told me so far, I can understand how you see sustainability because it's based on procedures and growing the business, while the e-commerce world thinks that profitability or sustainability comes from traffic and sales. So what's your opinion, and how do you fight those mindsets that are unfortunately poisoning the whole industry?
Yeah. If you talk to 5 people in e-commerce and ask them the same question, you'll probably get 10 different opinions on this. My opinion, and just to set the stage too, I've never worked at a D2C darling like a Glossier or an Away or a brand that was heavily VC funded and was able to grow really rapidly. And because of that, a lot of people will come to me and say, hey, I have this idea. I want to grow my brand. Show me how to do it. Well, I understand everyone wants to get the name recognition of an Away or anything, or Away travel or anything like that. It's really hard if you don't have the funds. You can't be expecting to see the lifts in traffic that they saw with a budget of $500 a month. It just won't happen. 9 times out of 10, what I have to do is manage expectations of here's what a realistic budget is. I don't necessarily agree that traffic and sales is the only way to grow your e-commerce brand. There's so many different factors that go into it. There's the brand awareness. There's all of the other different levers that you can pull throughout. The way of the world right now is a lot of awareness and acquisition has to come from a paid procedure. And it's not as easy as saying, here's $100. I want to grow this brand as fast as I can. That said, in my past, I've always used the approach of driving really strong ROAS upfront to then reinvest those dollars, grow your budgets very organically, and naturally see that sustainable growth rather than just a blip in the wind and then you come down. It's there's not a creative director out there who doesn't want to go viral, right? It just, the entire concept of viral can't happen. You can't force it to happen.
You can't control it, yeah.
And the idea of just getting a bunch of traffic and a bunch of sales really quickly to sustain your e-com brand isn't really realistic. But of course, if you probably ask someone else, they'd tell you, of course it is. And give me all your money, I can show you.
True.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients, if I was the best Facebook marketer out there, if I was the best Google, you see people on Instagram or wherever saying they're the best of the best doing all of these things. With all due respect to any of my clients, if I was the best at this, they would not be my client and I would be sitting on a beach somewhere in Bali, never working again. And it's all about sort of pulling different levers constantly and figuring out what works, and what works for one brand doesn't work for another brand.
100%.
So can you share with us some mistakes from your experience? I mean, how you've learned,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's sure that you have some track record about learning from your mistakes. Otherwise, you wouldn't
Yeah.
be here.
Do you want like mistakes from today or just in general?
Any mistake that you want to share publicly, Kathleen? That's fine.
I am not afraid to take risks. And I think anyone who I work with, anyone who is part of my team has to be okay doing that. Part of what I think makes digital and e-com so innovative is the ability to take risks, try new things, play around with budgets, see what that right complexion is. I actually have found myself very recently trying to grow brands from nothing. Whereas when I joined Rowing Blazers, they had a presence, they had some data for me to work with. And one of the things that I've been learning is when you grow a brand from scratch, from day one, and no one knows you and you have 100 followers on Instagram, it's a lot different of a mentality and a complexion of tools that you'll use to grow that brand than when you start doing millions of dollars and then that changes. And then when you hit 10 million, that changes. And I think mistakes I've made in my past, even when I started my own business, I figured, hey, I do this all the time. I throw up Google ads, I throw up Facebook ads, and I see a ROAS and I see a generation of leads. I thought I could do that for my own business. It doesn't work that way. So I've poured, I don't want to say thousands, but I've poured money into my own business trying to get leads here and there, recognizing that, oh, that's not really the way you have to grow a brand that's geared around services versus a consumer good versus a higher end product. It's not, this sounds, anyone probably listening knows this, but it's not a one size fits all for e-com and digital. And you really want to work with someone who understands that concept and the same tools or complexion of things that they've used in platforms it's not always going to be right.
I feel you 100%, and I really see the fact that a lot of this growth concepts and sustainability, I guess, methodologies are heavily commoditized, and people are trying to commoditize them. But unfortunately, it's not like that. Even with, in what I do, or Valentin does with retention, everyone is trying to standardize it. But a brand's retention is not another brand's retention. And I think it's an education problem when it comes to direct-to-consumer brands. Because as you say, there's a lot of people on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn that are saying we're the best, posting screenshots of their ROIs, of their, I don't know, whatever. And people are like, oh my God.
With 21 sales or something like that.
Yeah. And everyone is like, oh my God, like this. And especially if he has an audience or she has an audience, that's it. But the problem is that as an e-commerce brand, as a direct-to-consumer brand, you have to understand that whatever works for you is not going to be what works for someone else. Like exactly as you said, I'm like 100% in alignment with you. You got to work with people that understand the difference between you and other people, and don't watch your brand through the lenses of other brands, because otherwise it's a clusterfuck, in my opinion, and everything just unravels badly. So yeah, I'm with you 100%, 100% on that. But like, tell me about the brand that you worked with. You don't have to give the name if you don't want to, but like, can you give us an example? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to our show with smaller brands. And there's a question I always get, a lot from them, like, how do we decide what's important to get started with? So
yeah.
What do you think?
That is where someone like me and my company comes in to help you understand what's important for you, your brand, and what your values are, and what you want out of this. Everyone has not only different goals for their business, but they have different exit strategies for what they want this to be. If it's they just want a quick sale, or they want to sustain this brand for a while. And because of that, part of what I do at 56 is really advocate with platforms and with other agencies and tools on your behalf, right? Yeah. So I'll come in, and if there's a brand who really wants to focus on the CRM pieces and retaining their customer base or build up a subscription model. I'll take a different approach than if I talk to a brand who, listen, we're brand new. We want to get our eyes out in front of everyone. We don't really care about generating a lot of revenue right now. For us, it's more about gaining followers and awareness. That's a whole different set of complex tools. And I sort of a big part of what I do is during the discovery phase, sit with founders and people on their team and say, what are the goals? What do you really want? When you say you want a bunch of followers on Instagram, what's the why behind that? Why do you want all of that? Why do you want to spend your money getting followers versus spend your money getting orders? And take me through that process.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Valentin. No, it's cool.
I wanted to emphasize here something, Katelyn, that I think these vanity metrics, let's say, are coming, almost all of them are coming from a lack of formal education in this e-commerce space, because this was like a burst. We had a lot of e-commerce companies. We even have more of them, and there is not a structured approach, not in terms of the recipes, but in terms of these are the fundamentals of e-commerce. And don't get fooled by the traps of Facebook ads, which are training everyone around ROAS and CPC and CTRs and whatever, because that's their terminology. The e-commerce terminology should have things regarding the customer acquisition cost, payback period, the customer lifetime value. Those are your terms. And unfortunately, a lot of e-commerce founders and owners and marketeers are being trapped into this mouse wheel from Facebook and Google and whatever, TikTok, around putting an equal sign between growth and ad spend.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. And I think what you've emphasized earlier, it's a beautiful way to capture the main issue which we have in this industry. Besides the fact that everyone is doing okay, but there are some entrepreneurs which are in this freaking e-commerce game. They are putting something like 2, 3, 4, 5 years of their all their economies into a game that they don't understand, and they don't have where to go to understand, because the extroverts and the influencers in e-commerce, they simply play the same songs. I mean, spend some money, let's do some PPC, Facebook ads, and so on. And there are way too many at this moment.
It's a really interesting, I was actually just having this exact conversation the other day with my fiance. He went to school for finance. The same language he speaks at work is the same language his father spoke when he worked at a bank. The same metrics they use. Do you think people were talking about digital attribution modeling 15 years ago? No. And I think sometimes it's hard for entrepreneurs to recognize that no one is ever going to care about your business like you care, no matter what you do about it. No one will ever care. The closest you'll probably get is your family. But Facebook, Google, these platforms are built to maximize the way they show their value so that you spend more money with them. And the entire idea of attribution modeling and looking at something like Facebook versus Google versus even an email platform. And don't get me wrong, I do use Facebook ads, and I have a whole section of my business that manages paid media. But these entire businesses are built around the idea that they want your money. So they're going to show that they are very valuable for you so that you spend more money. And when you actually look at true e-com metrics, it'll value a platform like Facebook differently. If you're using Google Analytics, Facebook isn't going to show up as valuable than if you're using your source of truth as Facebook. That's just the definition of how capitalism works, really. The
issue here is, even if you have an attribution model, if you're looking only at the conversions and not looking at the whole customer lifetime value and the other orders, you're going to be biased as well. And so if you want to go down this route, at some point in your endeavor, you might have to pick your to place your bets, because it's about analysis paralysis.
I say that all the time. It's analysis paralysis. One of the most valuable things I did for a company I worked for a few years back, I won't name names, but we took a look at all of our channels of acquisition, who was coming from where, how many people. More importantly, we looked at what their average order value was by device and what their lifetime value is. So I knew if I got a customer from mobile who converted through email, they were going to be worth that much more than if I got someone who converted on mobile from Instagram versus someone on desktop from Google, and what they would ultimately be worth in 5 years. And understanding, I truly think there's not enough e-com. I don't even think there's enough e-com people out there who understand the importance of lifetime value, and how that simple tool alone can completely change. You're just looking at that number alone can completely change your strategy.
That's what Valentin has tattooed on his back. That whole sentence. I know. I mean,
I've dried my mouth saying the same thing you've told since, I don't know, I haven't got enough gray hair.
It is, and it goes back to it's so hard because this industry exploded so quickly. There's not enough people who truly, and listen, I think I'm the greatest at what I do because I am really good and I tell it like it is. You'll find people out there who are better than me even who can speak to this. And I know I'm just so great, but you'll find people better than any of us. And I'm not afraid to say that. I know that I have a lot more to learn in this space, but I know that even people and colleagues I've come across, I'll start talking to them about things like lifetime value, and they look at me like I have 6 heads.
56.
And 56 heads. I like that. And they don't get it. And a part of that is just there is no formal education on this. Yeah. No one, I'm 35. No one my age went to school for this. We didn't know what to look for. We just taught it on our own.
We know, that's why we did it. Valentin did this whole CVO Academy, and everything basically is focused on customer lifetime value. And we're talking about acquisitions and customer journey and retention and absolutely everything. I mean, related to the customer journey, but looked at through the lenses of customer lifetime value. And we have been receiving the same feedback as you said, that like there was no one to teach us this. We had to break our teeth in it on our own. And I agree. I think clearly right now customer lifetime value has become a very sexy topic because in 2000 this year, like if you remember when Shopify dropped their what's his name, the Future of E-commerce report, they were the first e-commerce tech giant whatever that was actually talking about customer lifetime value. And then everyone started oh my god, customer lifetime value. And it's super funny to me because I see people talking about it and don't understand the fact that they're talking about it like it's an average, and it's not an average. As you were saying earlier, you have a different lifetime value on mobile if, I don't know, you're coming from Facebook, than on desktop if you're coming from Instagram. And I don't think people understand the many layers. Like customer lifetime value is an onion. It will make your food good, but it's gonna make you cry the more you peel that onion. I gotta use
it has made me cry before.
Mental note to use that, but it is like you're gonna cry, but it has so many layers, and it's hard to define it. If you look online and Google for formulas, we worked with a professor Valentin, remember that guy, the professor? Like, we worked with the professor to make sure it's as accurate as possible, because it's never that accurate. That's the thing with customer lifetime value. You got to be smart and calculate it on all possibilities. And like, the more you see those possibilities, you figure out like, shit, there's another possibility for me to calculate it. So it's like, it's crazy. And I just appreciate the fact that you mention it, mostly because I've been draining my mouth talking about it as well, not as long as Valentin, but it's like so important to understand this. This metric is just not necessarily only a metric. It's just like a consequence, a result of a great job that you're doing for your customers.
It's really interesting because I think we all talk about it being, we all, by now, everyone understands channels of acquisition and a basic level of attribution modeling. And not enough people, too, are talking about how your customer lifetime value can vary drastically across the globe. And a customer in New York not only can be different from someone in LA, but can be completely different than someone in Tokyo, than in Bulgaria, than in wherever you are in the world. And it's really important to be able to set yourself up to measure these tools rather than just make assumptions. Oh, I have a footwear brand and it's very luxury and it's fashion, so therefore my customer in Italy is going to be great. Yeah. You have no idea where you can unlock different sort of just customer segments and a greater understanding, given just the different cultures and different tax regulations and governmental things and just the way different communities act. And that's one of my favorite things and favorite projects to work on, is helping brands understand a global strategy. And a big part of that is spent understanding your baseline pricing in different regions, knowing the way people work. It's not enough to say, oh, I sell something for $99 in the States. Let me convert that to yen and sell it. You have to really understand the culture behind it before you do, in order to drive that lifetime value.
So have you worked on internationalization projects? Because this is a very interesting topic for me. I actually love this topic. By the way, for whoever is listening, Swanky Agency dropped a great piece of content about e-commerce internationalization, 118 pages of everything, pest analysis. You guys have to download this. It has 7 gigabytes. I know it's big, but it's like everyone from Shopify Plus, from everywhere, like really, really love this. I participated in it too, but from a customer experience perspective, I really want to talk to you about this. Like, you just opened my eyes right now. And tell me, like, I know like people don't understand internationalization, and it's funny, someone was asking today on LinkedIn, someone that does it was asking, who in your company is in charge of taking your business overseas? Is it the CEO? Is it the operation? Is it the salespeople? Or is it your marketing? So, if you listen to this, what are you saying, Katelyn? Who is the person in charge?
Well, hire me. I'm available. You can get my information from you guys. For all those listening, this is what I am an expert
That's
in.
Awesome, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so awesome. I love it. It excites me so much, and at a very granular detail. Mm-hmm. I never thought, being an e-com, I would care about tax law in Brazil or I thought emerging markets was like a finance term, and I don't need to know that. No, there's something so gratifying of having a site that I built myself. Not myself. I had developers. I just took credit for their work. But a site that I put together in New York City for a 100-year-old brand that came from Eastern Europe, immigrated to the States, ran this brand. 100 years later, we're getting an order from Azerbaijan without spending a cent. And there was something, I remember when I saw that order come in, and I was just, I was like jumping up and down because I thought it was the coolest thing. Someone in Azerbaijan knew who we were enough to buy something from us. there are so many ways to do it. And I find myself educating brands a lot on how easy it can be if you use the right tools, if you go about it in a very strategic way. You also don't need to spend a lot of money marketing to these places. It's funny, everyone's like, oh, I just want Google to go live in these countries and suddenly I'll be big. But what the majority of people don't recognize is, I mean, I'm sure there's international people on this call, but they don't use Google like we use Google in South Korea. They don't use Google in Japan. So you need to have a Yahoo strategy. You need to have a Naver strategy. You need to have all of these different platforms. In India, it's extremely hard to get a package to your front door. What carriers and what complexion of people do you need to use to be able to deliver that? In Brazil, anything you ship there costs 50% extra in taxes. So how do you have to set your pricing strategy so as a brand you're not losing money, but yet you're still attractive to the customer so that they're not paying $150 for a $50 item? There's so many different ways to do it. And a lot of times people will come to me and say, I want to grow my brand in Canada. Yeah. Okay, that's great. You realize there's more countries in the world besides the US and Canada, right? Like a lot of them speak English too, and it's really easy to launch in them. So why don't we make that Canada also the UK, also New Zealand, also Australia, and then let's start focusing on Europe and other languages. So yeah, I literally can talk about this all day. So stop me whenever you want me to.
No, I love this. Sorry, Valentin, just to wrap up this, I just want to say that if someone by any chance from pitviper.com, American brand that have the dopest shades, hear this, I want them to hire Katelyn so they can actually sell to Romania, because I'm not paying $500 on your shades, man. I've been abandoning carts on their website for a month just for a 20% off. And I hate discounts. Like, I advise brands against discounting. Mm-hmm. And these guys, I've been abandoning their cart. I try to go to the customer support to try to play them to give me a 20% off. It's just too much money for me in Romania. So that's
it doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah,
it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's crazy. I always wanted the pair of shades from them. I love shades. And I'm just, Valentin, if you hear this, my birthday is coming. But I
have you said something? I'm losing you.
Pete Viper, hire Katelyn. That's it. Pitviper.com, hire Katelyn.
Katie, I have a few quick questions for you. The first one is, what do you hate the most at e-commerce?
Oh my God, I can only pick one thing. What do I hate?
Yeah. One thing.
I hate the way how do I say this and not upset my entire government? I think e-com in general, it's a classic example of the legislation and laws around e-com and what brands can and can't do and what companies can and can't do is really lagging behind the times. And that's not to offend the US government, although it is on the up and up now. But I hate the fact that there's just no one knows what they're doing.
What do you love about it?
I love how fast-paced it is. I genuinely love what I do. I love helping brands grow. Like I said, I don't have a great idea to save my life. So I love seeing brands that I can grow and love looking back and saying, look how much money we made and grew, and look at all these great people we hired and opened up new stores. And I just love seeing brand growth.
Excellent. So how do you see e-commerce evolving in 2030?
That's far out. I'm not going to be the basic one to say.
I'm just laughing for something else. I'll tell you afterwards.
It's so far away. Who knows? We could all be robots by then.
We're going to send discounts on spaceships. You abandoned my car.
rockets with a display ad on them.
You abandoned my car. Please buy from me.
I'm not going to be the basic person to say, sure, APAC and India, there's a lot of explosion there. There's a lot of explosion in LATAM. Sure, I think globalization is a trend that's absolutely never going away ever. I also, I think people are going to be smarter. And I think there's going to be more conversations around lifetime value. There's going to be less of this. I open up Instagram and I see 75 different people promising me that they can get me the best ROI on ads. I'd like to hope that there's going to be less of that in e-com moving forward. I also think the obvious one is a lot of AI stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of innovation around bridging the gap between online and in-store experiences, voice activation type stuff. A lot of AI is what I'm super interested in as well.
Excellent. So last one is from mine, at least. The last question is, what do you think your clients are not getting and only you can help them achieve?
That's a great question.
That is a really great question. And I actually have been working on this myself to figure this out. I think 9 times out of 10, you work with an agency who prides themselves on being an agency. They have figured out the systems. They've figured out the platforms. At the end of the day, they're still an agency who's based on scaling and growing their business and being as efficient as possible. And therefore, a lot of automation comes with efficiency, and they might not necessarily take an out-of-the-box approach. Why people will hire me opposed to just working with an agency directly is, quite frankly, because I've never worked for an agency. I've only ever worked for a brand, and I get understanding what it's like to advocate on behalf of a brand for an agency. And people will hire me or my team or work with my preferred partners and me because of the strategic growth we can provide them, beneficial to their brand, and not with the end goal of being scalable and efficiency just for an agency's sake.
Yeah,
love it. Juliana?
My question for you is actually, I don't even know if it's a question, but I know you're an activist for inclusion. So there's a lot of females that want to get into the entrepreneurship part in e-commerce, and I want your best piece of advice and goal that you can share with the young females trying to enter the e-commerce industry and probably overwhelmed, I'm sorry, Valentin, by the sausage fest. So tell me what's your most precious
So, email me, become my friend, add me on LinkedIn. Let's talk about this, because I can literally talk about this all day. I think women underestimate how strong of a network there is out there who really wants to help you succeed. I'm not saying I feel like even when my mother was going up and growing up in her career, there weren't a lot of women mentors out there for her to look up to. Same with me. Right now, I have very few. I do have a couple, but I have very few mentors who have done the same things I've done or been in the same life cycle or life stages as I have. I've joined the Chief Network here in the States, which is the entire concept of, for women in the C-suite, it doesn't necessarily need to be lonely at the top. Because I will say, I was the only female, I was the first and only female on my C-suite in my company. That's alone pivotal when I sit there with 4 or 5 other white guys, and who all came from around the same region in the US. And here I am, young, white, female, have a different view of the world. There are a lot of women out there who want to see you succeed and not to give up and to just find them. And literally, I hope in the next year or two, part of what I want to roll out on my end for 56 is almost like an incubator women's mentorship program, seminar, something around this. So I've been working with some younger girls in my team to help understand, like, hey, in your 20s, what do you want out of old people like me? What do you want us to tell you? And how do you want us to get there? And how can we make this like a bigger thing and invite your friends and your sisters and cousins and whoever?
I love that.
Yeah, we'll see how that evolves. I've been working on it with my executive coach because I want to see it work. It's a lot.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's awesome and I think it's needed because there's so many people that are trying to enter the industry, especially females, and there's like some barriers that they need to, it's mostly mindset barriers because it's how the industry is built. So Katelyn, tell me, how do we find you on social media? Where should we look for you? And how can people connect with you?
Yeah, should I leave my email in the chat?
You can leave it in the chat, and I'm gonna add it in the episode notes.
Here's my email.
Cool.
I will give people my LinkedIn, and my Instagram is 56ny.
So I'm just gonna drop that in the notes.
That is me on LinkedIn. You can follow me. You can follow my business.
Cool.
My Instagram is @56.
Great.
Thank you so much for being here today. This was fun and refreshing. As I needed it. I told you I'll be fine. I was tired, but now I'm good again. See, every time I start this podcast, I'm tired because it's so late, and then I'm like, man, I'm good. I'm good.
That
thing? It's called metabolism, Juliana.
It's not working for me since the pandemic. Valentin.
A pandemic and a baby, yeah. Double strike.
You know how many people tell me that I cannot believe you have a baby? Someone told me yesterday, Deb, one of my friends, she was like, girl, I forgot you had a baby. It's like, I know, right?
I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either.
Oof.
I will. When I find out, I promise I'm gonna make a system that can be reproduced by other females. I'm gonna productize the whole thing.
Literally.
But I don't know yet how I'm doing it. But I might write a book about it.
It's about documentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I woke up at like 9:30 today. I have no idea how I would take care of a child. I give you so much credit.
I don't know what I have a great husband. I think it's my second one because I have two. So it's that crazy, but I give a lot of credit to my husband. So thank you, my husband. I'm not gonna say his name because he's hot, and I don't want females to look him up.
Love it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here, Katelyn. This was fun. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe. See you guys next week.
I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.
All the best, everyone. Bye.